Hey there. I'm Andres. I'm in Long Beach, California. Sunny day, perfect weather as always. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm just having my coffee, spinning up my day.
So, Andreas, I'm going to share the screen with you, and we're going to get started with the legacy behavior experience.
Cool.
Uh, the important thing is, as you read each slide, there's no need to do speed reading or anything like that. Just read it at whatever rate suits you, and
Hmm.
then really, I'm here if you've got any questions or you want to reflect on it, whatever's there, or connect with it,
Hmm.
um, just do that, and then I'll respond accordingly. There might be a few slides where I sort of actually chip in something extra, but it's really over to you. Have a read of it. So this is instead of me sort of just delivering a PowerPoint presentation and whittling on about it, from slide to
Sure.
slide. Hopefully, this is much more interactive, and you'll ask questions or reflect on areas that people think, yeah, that I would have asked that question.
Yeah.
I would like to point out, if people do have questions or reflections, they can always join me in one of the live question answer reflection sessions to suit different time zones. Okay, so they're not sort of crazy times of the day and night, say for Australia or for the US or for the UK. So really, it's over to you now, Andres. If you want to read that first slide,
Hmm.
that would be great, and then just come back
Cool.
to me. You may understand it and just say move on, or you've got some questions or you'd like to reflect on something.
Sure thing. Yeah, I'll see you in a few lines of text.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. No questions on the first one. Seems
No
seems like
questions on the
something
first.
that
Great,
frame
great.
experience well. Yeah.
I look quite different in a pair of swimming trunks, though, don't I?
Indeed, I like your surfboard too.
It doubles up. I can do my ironing. I can do my.
All
Okay.
right.
Can I just ask you, what do those images? What do you think they convey to you? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to catch you out, but what do you think I'm
Oh,
getting at?
sure. Well, what they are is they're kind of they're misapplied tools is the theme
Yeah,
that I'm seeing here.
yeah.
Except for the one in the center, which is perhaps maybe represents some sort of a voice or an impetus that we have inside that
Oh,
gets us
that's
to do things. Maybe.
that's interesting. I was sort of putting that one in there. I'll get me drawing sorted out.
Hmm.
Uh, so I put that there to sort of represent something from the past. Speaking,
Yeah.
a historic thing. The sort of out of date. I mean, that was probably state of the art once. When the person
Indeed.
first bought it, their
Ah.
friends and came round and were probably amazed at that piece of technology. But
Hmm.
it's fallen, it's sort of fallen behind the times. It no longer relates to the current day.
Ah,
So
interesting.
so
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
right.
if
That's
you
right.
were using that as your primary source to generate sound, you might be missing out.
You probably would be. Yeah, because those the
Yeah,
frequency response on
yeah.
those old gramophones is pretty rough.
Although there's something charming about it still. Anyway, so I'll move
Indeed.
on, shall I? Yeah.
Yep. All right. What are legacy behaviors?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's all right. Okay. Okay. So, one question that pops up for me is, are legacy, what do you think, are legacy behaviors separate for overlapping or, separate from overlapping or perhaps sharing some aspects of habit?
That's a really good point. I mean, I think you could say they're quite closely linked. You know,
Mhm.
um, uh, the I would say overlapping really. Some
Uh-huh.
habits might actually be legacy behaviors. The
Yeah.
only thing that I would say is most of our habits we probably know about,
Okay. Okay.
whereas the legacy behaviors that this tool sort of helps reveal um, are concealed, almost in plain sight.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
by the end of it, you sort of say, "Well, I sort of knew about that, but I didn't know it could be distinct. I didn't know I could actually hive that off and identify that and where it came from."
Uh-huh.
You know,
Okay.
so that bit about enmeshed in our personality. So
Yeah.
often, what we think is our personality is in a way a composite of probably legacy behaviors,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
and habits are in a way connected to that. I mean, you could say a habit of maybe biting your nails would be connected to a legacy behavior. You may not
Yeah.
be it. And in some ways, as you see this, it could be in a way slightly connected and in a minor way be described as a legacy behavior, because biting nails is a sort of tension release. It is a
Yeah.
comforting thing.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay.
But it's a comforting thing. If you're still doing it, it's probably either is a habit or it's still working for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. That makes sense.
And the types of legacy behaviors this gets at is they're still present, they're still operating, but they're not
Hmm.
really working for you anymore. They're causing you problems.
Okay. 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 And then that's, yeah, hence the term legacy rather than,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
any other reflections or thoughts? That was great.
Let's see. I think, yeah, no, I think, no, I think I'm good with that.
You're good with
Mostly,
that. Okay. Shall I move on?
yeah. 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 Go
Okay.
ahead. Thank you. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, this will help. I like the terminology gold chain around your neck, dragging you down. Okay. Okay. So this, yeah, I think this slide really helps me understand the difference between kind of, like habits and personality aspects, like you were saying in the last slide. Um, and it helps me understand maybe the kind of goal orientedness of them, uh,
Okay.
of legacy behaviors, in the sense that there's something that you at least once got from doing the thing.
I mean, these are quite coarsely cut legacy behaviors. You know,
Yeah.
quite a lot of people would probably know they were a bit like that anyway by the
Right.
time they got to therapy. Uh, and that you can use the therapy legacy behavior experience with people who are sort of saying that, because as you'll see, it delivers another big outcome.
Mhm.
So people who may have an inkling of what their legacy behaviors might find this beneficial, but also people who've just got no idea of what they are. If you've been hunting and searching and you've been doing a lot of self-help books and maybe a lot of therapy, but it's still just not working as much as you'd like it to or at all, I move on.
Yeah, one thing that I'm
Oh
noticing
yeah.
about the legacy behaviors here, or at least the examples that you have, is that there's very much I feel like with a lot of these there's they exist obviously over time, and I expect a lot of these would kind of creep up on you in kind of a boiling frog sort of way. Um,
Yeah, they they
you know,
they
over
they they're
time.
deeply embedded and so enmeshed that a lot
Yeah.
of the time you just can't distinguish them. They're
Mhm.
they're sort of what you would think as you. This is
Right.
this is you. I'm just this is me. This is me.
This is just who I am. Like what?
Yeah, this is who I am, and
Yeah.
I mean, and what this is doing, I know anyone therapists who work in the field of shame. One of the big, just as an analogy, one of the big things in working with shame is to help clients um, distinguish and separate shame, because a lot of clients who've got issues around shame think that they intrinsically, physically, every cell of the body, if you were
Mhm.
to unravel their DNA, it sort of had a little shame bit in it, as though it's intrinsic. And one of the work in psychotherapy or counseling around shame is to help people move away from that and not think it's intrinsic. So
Now, when you say that, do you think is it
I'm not
the?
saying this is all about shame, by the way. I'm just using
Oh,
that
sure.
example.
Hmm. Sure. Yeah, I'm ready to go on.
Are you all right with that?
Yes. Okay. Some more examples. Yeah, some of these are pretty big things. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, these are kind of like some of them can be quite deep personality. That term personality keeps coming up because things
yeah,
like this really, they very, I'm starting very much to see like the difference between these and habits, and they're
yeah.
very
So very much as you're
core
saying,
pillars of personality. Like,
yeah, like see, this one, that like that. If you were talking to, I'll try and use, something like you're at baseball. I think I'm going to try and be international with my analogy here,
yay.
uh, and two parents are talking about another parent who does the coaching, and he always and he's great and he's always there and he's working hard. He's always there for the team and driving them around and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they would be talking in a way that described that what they thought was that person's personality, and that person also will be possibly recognizing that's what they do, but some of
Mhm.
this stuff might be going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And what's interesting is as I read some of these examples, some of them resonate with me. But what's interesting is the little spike of fear that I experience when I imagine what if that goes away.
Hey, Andres, knowing you, I just designed all of these straight from you.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, I didn't want to say it really is just all of them.
Yeah, this is, yeah, I didn't want to say either.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, no, they're sort of, yeah, what people might say, this is my personality.
Yeah.
This is how I
Like,
am. I mean, I think you'll see legacy behavior starting to come out and play more havoc and problems in people's lives as they get through their 20s and into their 30s.
mhm.
And then often by the time you're in your 40s, they're really cooking,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
people's lives in their 40s are really hot and cooking, jobs have got bigger, kids, maybe parents are just starting to be a little bit frailer or whatever, you can sense that shift.
Yeah.
So yeah, the 40s can be times when you see people. I mean, you can see people coming to you as a psychotherapist with legacy behavior issues at all ages. Really, well, maybe not the age of 5 or 6,
Hmm.
but yeah, bloody blah.
Yeah.
I'm going on a bit. So, anything else there? Shall I move on or
Yeah.
before, even more?
Even more. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 These are
Hey, I mean,
recognizable patterns.
sorry, I'm jumping in there. Was there
Uh-huh.
anything you want to reflect on or ask me about? Because I'm destroying. I just wanted to, but you first, please.
Yeah, yeah. That last one is interesting because it has another side of the coin. I mean, I suppose a lot of them do, and that's why they're legacy behaviors, but there's almost a kind of a slightly more clear covert contract flavor to that last one.
Yeah, and also legacy behaviors may be delivering in some ways good outcomes in parts of your life, but
Yeah.
exerting a cost in another part.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about them is that cost is going up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard to do anything about, because if you're not conscious or aware of where that cost is coming from, because the legacy
Mm-hmm.
behaviors are so elusive, you can't do much about it. It just you keep on buying self-help books or keep on going courses, and they
Mm-hmm.
just don't seem to deliver.
Yeah.
And things just don't seem to be getting back on track. In fact, the tracks of where you are and where you'd want to be are diverging more. uh,
Yeah, yeah. It's like if I decided I was always fair, honest, and ready to help out, if I decided that's who I was 15 years ago, then it would be very easy for me to get through 3 or 4 self-help books without really critically examining that.
and another thing, I mean, just come to my thought about couple work. I mean, a while ago is you can work with couples where on paper the legacy behavior that one of them has is absolutely great. It delivers
Uh-huh.
all sorts of wonderful things, but the way it plays out in the relationship actually is very discordant and ends up training the other person in a way that delivers relationship problems and discord and unhappiness. So so they can be quite interesting in a way they
Yeah.
play out on an individual and also couple or family basis. Any other questions or reflections?
Nothing here.
Okay, great.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that all makes sense to me. It's
Yeah.
pretty straightforward. Yeah.
So it's not a starter tool. This, it's something that you need to have some degree, some psychoeducational awareness.
Yeah.
Like a bit more of a developed language, maybe, or an observer capacity.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's me saying that. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
I was interviewing a psychotherapist who's using the rainbow map today, and he's using it, and another one I was interviewing the other day, a Polish psychotherapist who's using the rainbow map. So
Hmm.
I say that lightly because they're using the rainbow map in
Yeah.
ways I never anticipated, and the same with this. I'm sure people
Interesting.
who get into this will use it in different ways and integrate it in very different ways to whatever I could imagine. So,
Yeah.
which is something I should underline. I'm showing the legacy behavior experience as I define it.
Right.
I'm not saying that's exactly the way to do it. You know,
Right. Okay. Okay.
I'm hoping, that some people might do it. Quite a lot of therapists use the rainbow map in the way I sort of originally trained it. Lots don't. Same with this. It's basically the concepts and the ideas, the techniques that might be cherry picked.
Okay.
So maybe
Okay.
some people are already finding the concept of legacy behaviors useful, and maybe that's enough.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know.
Okay.
So
And this is one of many modules, right? Like, so if I wanted to understand and be more aware of reflective mind and reactive brain body system, then
yeah,
there's
that's there.
modules
Yeah.
for that, right?
Well, many. I think there'll be when the website launches later this month. There will be about 12 hours or so. I mean, I tell you,
Right.
the amount of work to generate 12 hours is just massive. So,
Indeed.
or I'm
Okay.
just a very slow worker, probably that. So, here we go. Oh, sorry, I'm moving on. Is it okay?
Yes. Okay. Can the LB be farm? Okay. Okay. Yep. So yeah, I mean that's any tool has the potential to be harmful. So that makes sense to me. Like in the sense of that's just how tools are. But obviously, doing work with somebody is going to very much rely on their professionality and ethics.
but this is also because it's on this website that's available to the public. It's important that people are aware. If it's a general member of public, this can be used as a self-help tool. But all I'm saying is, if you're sort of triggering and you experience it in a slightly more intense thing, then maybe self-help tools of this sort aren't for you at this moment. It's better to go to one of the major associations like in America, ACA, American Counseling Association, or in this country, BACP or UKCP, Australia, ACA, European Counseling Federation or organization, and they'll all have a find a therapist. And if you find a therapist through one of these, or the EMDR organization, which is worldwide, and if you find a therapist through them, they're signed up to an ethical code of contact, a very strong sense of values. I've seen a typo in here, so apologies to any counselors. I put a capital P for some reason. It's just a typo for psychotherapist, and that's just a typo. So I'm sorry about that, counselors. There's nothing meant by that. I use those words interchangeably because they're used in different parts of the world. So, any other thoughts or reflections there?
No, I think I'm square on that one.
Yeah. So here we go. We're into it then. The legacy behavior experience.
Legacy behavior.
The first step of it.
Okay, survival system training. Okay. Basic info. It's interesting that you're going from adult to adolescent to earlier Is there any reason for that order, or is it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
done on very purposefully. Yeah,
Okay.
I might hold back saying that, but no, there's a real reason for that, and you'll see how that reveals it. So I'm not trying to be coy here,
Sure.
but it starts the next slide or two that will start to
Mhm.
become clear. Or
Okay.
if it's not clear, I'll hopefully add to that, add to
Hmm.
those slides. But yeah, no, it's very much for that. And also notice there aren't any specific age ranges. You know, it
Right.
says toddler and baby rather than saying uh, 1 year old to 3 year old or whatever.
Yeah.
Because, okay, you could sort of say a human that's 6 months old is definitely a baby, and
Mm.
a child that's 2 years old is a toddler. But I'm a bit uneasy about putting really sharp delineating lines around that. We all sort of have an understanding. And the most
Yeah.
important thing is it's how we relate this to ourselves.
Right.
So what it means to you, rather than me saying your childhood started at this age, type of thing.
Hmm.
So quite often, psychotherapists, counselors, a lot of this information would be there, but this is, maybe a bit more detail if that hasn't been covered. But it's literally just listing it. There's no massive conversation going on here. It's a
Okay.
listing. And the primary reason for that is a listing for the person doing it.
Right.
Okay. And the other thing is, can you see in the toddler, baby, and prior, it's also drawing on family memories. So it's sort of like for me, I know we moved homes when when I was 12 months old.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember helping loading the van, with boxes or anything like that at 12.
Oh,
I've
okay.
got no recollection at all. The only reason I know that is because it's a family memory.
Oh, interesting, interesting. Yeah. So one example of that for me might be that I had pneumonia before I was able to remember, but apparently it was quite a big deal. So something like that,
Yeah, no,
maybe.
that would be interesting. I can't
Hmm.
spell pneumonia, but there you go.
Yeah,
So
neither can I. We'll just
yeah,
scrawl something into the paper.
so but the other thing, it could be a bit of family memory that maybe a grandparent
Yeah.
died months before they were born, or yeah, and maybe a parent was particularly close to that grandparent.
Uh-huh.
So that means you're born into a family that could be grieving,
Right.
or quite often, mum was in hospital for 2 or 3 weeks after the birth. We don't know why, but
Hmm.
so that means, and Auntie M came or whatever. So that means there was quite a lot of shifting very early on of primary caregiver.
Yeah.
So that's why that family memory is quite interesting there.
Yeah, interesting. What this makes me think is I know. So is this legacy behavior experience, is it kind of meant to be sort of iterative? Because one thing that I would know would happen for me is that as I continued going through exercises and reflecting and things like that, is that significance of things in my past would the significance of things would like shift in my mind. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, you get a lot of that. You get, as you go
yeah.
through this, you get people saying, "Oh, let me just go back to that. I need to add that,"
Hmm.
or that.
Right.
But the big idea there, the idea that big idea, that's a bit, but the idea is it okay? It's useful if it's a psychotherapist doing this. It's loading the psychotherapist up. This is a very creative experience, but
Yeah.
obviously not solely for the psychotherapist or counselor. It's also loading the client, or if this is being a self-help tool, it's loading stuff up, which starts to drive that incredible reactive brain starts to ping and connect
Uh-huh.
stuff up. And that's what we're
Okay.
starting to do with this.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, cool.
Are you all right?
Cool.
Should I move
Good to
on?
go. Mhm. Okay, okay. So one question I have is uh so what would be reasonable to transfer over from my adult experience? I guess so what's being transferred there?
What you think is enduring, like if I'm working with this, in the
Huh,
Word version, and there's a Word version available on the website, I'll typically just
okay.
copy all of that and dump it into the adult bit there. and
Yeah.
then and then the person will just read through that and say, yeah, friendly, and or unfriendly, or
Mhm.
unfriendly, and they'll just cherry pick through the list and maybe add other stuff. And then the question is, okay, so what we've ended up in this area, maybe mum to dad, or dad to mum, or
Okay, okay. Yep.
what we've ended up in the mum to dad area, how much is it, how reasonable is it just to copy that and just drop it into there? And very often people say, yeah, most of that would go there. Yeah, that was mainly my mum's behavior towards my dad, or my dad to my mum, even when
Uh-huh.
I was an adolescent child. But maybe there was a bit of a difference because this happened, so we could eliminate. So we're fine tuning what's in here,
Okay.
and we're starting to get a clearer idea of what would be enduring characteristics of the relationship between
Okay.
between the mum and the dad. Because bear in
Right. Okay,
mind,
I get you.
up here, can you see survival system training environment? And
Yes.
the environment is very influenced, obviously, by your genetics and how they're interacting with the environment. But that environment is very much formed by the nature of the relationship between your primary caregivers.
Right.
Okay. So, and because when we're young, a child at home, our safety is quite dependent. Our sense of safety and security is quite dependent on what we sense is going on in that relationship. So,
Right.
so children are also noticing what's going on between mum and dad.
Okay.
They may
Okay.
not be really fully conscious of it, but
Yeah.
that might be influencing how much they turn up or how much they turn down, how much they're
Right.
self-anesthetizing, or how much. So it's training their system. They're
Yeah.
we've got very malleable systems when we're
Mhm.
babies and toddlers and children,
Yeah.
incredibly malleable. But
Right.
virtually everything about our system is up for grabs, even down to the wavelengths that our ears and the processing within our brains will filter out.
Yeah.
So if you're in an environment that has a particular grating wavelength because it's at a volume that's so high, or the
Hmm.
nature of it is grating, when you're quite young, your system can filter that out and moderate that sound, which then may
Interesting.
have all sorts of other knock-on effects. If anyone's interested in more on that, then the Professor Stephen Porges' work and Deb
Okay.
Dana's work on
Uh-huh.
the polyvagal theory talks very strongly about that.
Oh,
So if
very
anyone's interested in knowing more about that, the polyvagal theory is very well worth tuning into.
really
So
poly. Okay. Okay.
yeah, so you get what it's like, adolescent and child. You refine
Mhm.
that down, and then you say, well, how much of that do you think we can transfer into there? Because you
Yeah.
won't really have much of a recollection.
Right.
So can you now see it's a bit of a trick?
Uh-huh.
Hopefully, people will see there's some legitimacy to it because we're trying to see what is enduring
Yep.
and how reasonable that is. Basically saying this is a best guess that
Yeah.
may be, because there may be some other stuff that can be refined.
Hmm.
Family memories about mum or dad's relationship in the toddler baby years, but quite a lot of this could get transferred into that. So you're picking up, and then the same maybe in a traditional sort of two-parent family, dad to mum or whatever, or stepdad or whatever, or stepmum, will go in there. And maybe there are other primary carers that we need to think about that were very influential in this training environment. Okay, so you're getting that. So we're forming a picture of what that toddler and baby were experiencing, and to some extent the child were experiencing at really at times when the system was incredibly malleable.
Right.
Because we're starting to see that's where quite a lot of the legacy behaviors we have today, that's where that's sort of like the nest. That's where they're starting to kick off.
And those are going to be very, at least in that far right column, those are going to be very basic behaviors, like very, kind of.
Well, wait and see. Wait and see.
Yeah.
That's not always the case. Toddlers and babies are incredibly sophisticated, in terms of the behavioral patterns. Remember, within an hour or two of birth, a baby is training the environment around it.
Right.
It doesn't know it's doing it, but if you look at the avoidance theory module, you'll start to see why I'm saying that. But babies and toddlers and children, they can generate pretty sophisticated behaviors to optimize the level of discomfort they're experiencing.
Right. Okay.
We'll come on to that. So are you okay with that? The other thing I would add to this one is that this is progressively what this experience is trying to do is something called externalizing. It's trying to help whoever's doing it, starting to see the scaffolding behind and around how their personality or behavior is formed. So again, rather than being some amorphous, glued together, indistinguishable mass, starting to see how elements got trained in and why they got trained in.
Yeah. And that's so externalizing is sort of taking a legacy behavior and then being able to distinguish that from like a pure sense of self. Yes.
And it's there's other meanings of externalizing. I'm using a little bit in the psychotherapy counseling style. I mean, it's a very accessible concept and a very useful one. So if anyone wants to Google externalization, in the context of psychotherapy, it's quite an interesting read and quite helpful.
Yeah.
As you can see, I try not to use that language. I mean, I've just spieled it out, but in the what I've written here, it's you won't see. Hopefully, you haven't seen any real complex language or terminology so far.
Yeah, not that I know of.
Well, I know you're a pretty slow sort of person, Andreas. So
I'm a good test for this, right?
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go.
Parent care behavior towards you. Okay.
Oh, can I just say, I've said this on other workshops. My daughter diagnosed me with comedy Tourette's. So anyone tuning into this, so I have a tendency to say things that can be inappropriate. Hopefully, no one thinks I've been. This isn't written in a patronizing way. It's written because in a way that is jargon free.
Yes.
So it's accessible. So people aren't excluded.
Yes.
So there isn't sort of power in a way imbued in the way it's written. As try to get that out so it's available and accessible.
I am a big fan of that.
Sorry. I mean, I'll try and control myself and not say silly things.
You should get a little card printed out that you can hand. It's a condition. The condition.
Yeah. Shut the F up, Andrew. Yeah. Okay.
Is there? I guess there's probably an order of. Is there? I guess intention behind the order of. So you have you have your own experience, and then you have carers' behavior toward each other, and then you have carers' behavior towards you. Is there thought behind that order? Or
Yes, yeah,
yeah?
yeah.
Mm.
I mean, it's sort of like a warm up.
Okay.
The carers. I mean, the most dominant influence will be their behavior directed towards you, or what you perceive
Mm.
that. Obviously, the other behavior between them is important in terms of your sense of attachment, your comfort, your sense of
Yeah.
security. But obviously, if you've got a parent that's bearing down on you or unpredictable, that's likely to have a more amplified effect. So yeah, there is
Right.
thought. I
Okay.
would like to think there's a thought behind every scintilla, every comma of this.
Hmm.
It's taken a long time to develop,
Yeah.
and I've had
Yeah.
a whole range of psychotherapists bravely being guinea pigs, and and I've this has been part of my practice for many years.
Yeah.
But
Cool.
I introduced the rainbow map through face-to-face training. I'm sort of introducing the legacy behavior through these modules.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so that's why I'm doing it this time.
Yeah. Cool. All right. All right. Well, I think I'm good on this one.
So you got that again. You're going through these, then transferring them over, and then
Yep.
transferring them over to get that understanding of what that training environment was like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I move
Absolutely.
on.
Please.
This one's a little bit why maybe it's good to have done the rainbow map or the introduction to the rainbow map modules prior
Hmm.
to this,
Okay.
because this, in a way, this looks and connects quite
Yeah.
strongly with the rainbow map.
Okay. Emotions, sensations, and styles of thinking or typical thoughts. Okay. Okay. And then this is something as I'm going through the legacy behavior experience, this is something that I would actually be filling out
Yeah,
on this
you'd
page
already
here.
have an idea about what uncomfortable emotions you'd have already experienced. Through the rainbow map,
Mhm.
splitting up your as you trigger
Okay.
what emotions you experience, the sort of sensations you experience, the styles of thinking and typical
Yeah.
thoughts you might be experiencing. So
Mm.
anyone who's done the rainbow map modules, this would make quite a lot of sense to. I think you could probably do
Okay.
this if you've got, like I said earlier, if you've got a reasonable degree of psychoeducation, you could probably have a go at this.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
any questions before I mean, I could just whittle on, or do you have any reflections?
Sure. Let's see. Discomfort experience connected with behavior around and towards you. Okay, so sorry, I'm just reading some more. Just taking it in.
No, yeah, there's no
A lot
rush.
of words on here.
Yeah.
Um, so is this just to make sure I'm square on what this is doing? This is a reflection on other people's behavior towards you, right?
Yeah, but this is a reflection on what sort of uncomfortable experiences that might have
Yeah.
generated. So we've got
Yeah.
a picture of the training environment, the environment between mum and dad. We've got a
Hmm.
picture of the environment from primary caregivers, between primary caregivers and you.
Yep.
And what sort of so if you're around parents, say as an adult, you're
Yeah.
around a mum and dad who are somehow things going wrong in their relationship when you're in
Hmm.
your 20s, when you may have memories of the types of emotions that you may have experienced, the discomfort you might have experienced
Yeah.
during that period. So
Okay.
they may be triggering up like
Mhm.
anger and frustration type of stuff,
Yep.
or they may have been sadness and depression episodes.
Okay. Okay.
It may have been the way your mum treated you, when you lost a job, or maybe is when you had a partner that maybe mum and dad didn't really appreciate or like.
Hmm.
That could have generated uncomfortable emotions. or maybe it was to do with the way mum and dad were handling issues with a sibling,
Okay.
or
Yeah.
whatever, and that. So you'd be writing
Huh.
down, and it's all about what discomfort you experienced.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you can see, there are forms of therapy that are highly analytical and will trawl through your past in great detail, and
Yeah.
that really has its time and place.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying, that there are some incredible psychotherapists and counselors working across the world in that type of analytical way.
Yeah.
Legacy behavior, yes, it does look into your past, but maybe not in a very deep and detailed way where you go into great debate. It's trying to get you quite quickly to this point to
Uh-huh.
start to
Yeah.
describe the types of discomfort you experienced.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. So you're picking out kind of triggering experiences. Um,
Yeah.
and then
And then,
maybe
sorry, Andreas, I interrupted.
uh-huh. Oh yeah, and then maybe you can start seeing a pattern as they go through those three as you go through those three phases
Yeah.
of life.
That's exactly it. So uncomfortable sensations, uncomfortable styles of thinking, and typical thoughts. So,
Mhm.
and you're doing these first two first because you're warming up. You're getting the
Ah,
idea. I mean, it's a lot of words on this, and maybe some clients, if you're working with a client, I mean, I would have thought people who do this with self-help will be fairly comfortable looking at pages like this. Some people will look
yeah.
at think, not for me, it
Hmm.
just bin this.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're working with clients, you can sort of soften that with some of these those sorts of clients by helping them through it and
Right.
being there for them as they touch on that. Or maybe they never see the actual paperwork and you just do this all in a verbal way, in
Yeah.
a discussive way.
Yeah.
So if someone said to me, I've never shown them the paperwork, but I've sort of done it, that would be great. Music to my ears.
Yeah. Right. Because through conversation we make connections,
Yeah.
and that's the idea, right?
So you'll be doing this and that. And the idea is you're warming up, you're getting the idea to do a really quite a bit of externalization, which is to say,
Right.
if a toddler or baby, imagine a toddler or a baby in the environment that you were experiencing, what types of uncomfortable emotions do you think they might be experiencing?
Oof, yeah.
Well, how that, and then there's a bit of yourself going to seep into that, but there's also a
Mm.
big bit of externalization, saying, what would a toddler and baby? So, yeah, they would feel quite frightened quite a lot of the time, or unsure,
Hmm. Yeah.
or they'd feel really, overall okay. But those short periods when dad really just lost it, yeah, that would generate quite a lot of uncertainty because you wouldn't know when that's going to happen. So
Yeah.
also they'd be a little bit insecure, uncertain at times when dad was around, or at certain times of day, or just after coming home from work. So you'd start to build a picture up of what the types of discomfort in
Yeah.
terms of emotions a toddler and baby would experience.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Yep.
you're actually starting to project back and
Right.
say in your early part of it, it would be reasonable that any toddler or baby might be experiencing these types of discomforts.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
you might say, do you think that'd be reasonable that I might have experienced that type of stuff? Because then, what you were saying earlier, stuff
Uh-huh.
sort of mysteriously resonates here.
Yes. Yes, that's right.
And then you might go back and add stuff earlier on, and you do
Right, right,
feeling
right.
upward. And then they're starting to say, yeah, I think that's probably what was happening to me. Yeah, I think you get
Yeah.
that. You have to be careful. This isn't precise. You know,
Right.
people. This isn't like saying there's a GoPro camera on the person, with
Mhm.
microphone on. Um, so we want an exact recording. This is like a projection, a guess of what sort of discomforts a baby and toddler and child will be experiencing in that training environment.
Yeah,
And
right,
by
right.
doing that, people resonate. They say, yeah, I think that was probably me. I
Yeah,
put,
because
that,
there's a fair chunk of guesswork going on in that far right column, but by the time you're there, you've got the other two filled out and probably have a sense of strength of resonance of the different
yeah,
pieces that'll
yeah.
kind of inform your.
Because you've got your childhood memories
Mhm.
and you'd be sort of saying, well, if I was experiencing that just there, close to being a toddler, it's probably reasonable that I was also experiencing it there. So,
Yeah.
so it's starting to trigger some memories and recollections and just resonances.
Hmm.
So and then the same with uncomfortable sensations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then where it doesn't work so well is, uncomfortable styles of thinking and typical thoughts. But some people, quite cerebral people, were saying, when I was a toddler, I used to think like this.
Yeah.
I thought I was uniquely bad, or somehow God had it in for me.
Hmm.
I can remember being a 3-year-old and
Yeah.
frightened of the vicar, because I
Hmm.
thought somehow he knew I'd done something wrong with one of my toys. So
Yeah.
you can get styles of thinking and typical thoughts coming out even here.
Hmm. And then there's, at that young, there's also just the way that our thinking capability develops, in terms of um, let's see, what am I trying to say? Like, for example, before a certain age, toddlers are unable to comprehend the idea of, like, somebody else's perspective, that sort of thing, I guess is what I'm talking about. And that's going to shape people's uh, styles of thinking, so to speak.
Yeah, and yes, I mean, there's very little to compare by at that age. The
Mhm.
cognitive skills and comparative skills and reflective skills are fairly limited at that age.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine some psychotherapists or counselors tuning in and going, oh, I'm not so sure about this. I can sort of see
Yeah.
it, but then would I do it with one of my clients or not? I'm not sure about that. The way to test this out is do it on yourself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for psychotherapists and that, do it, have a go on yourself. And I have a reasonable amount of confidence by the time you get here, you'll sort of see what I'm saying is stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
resonating.
Yeah.
And
That
you're
makes sense
starting
to
to
me.
put stuff. As long as people hold with it, it's guesswork still. It's
Right.
it's not go. Is it go cat? What are those called?
GoPro.
GoPro. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not GoPro proof, sort of thing, or
Hmm.
dash cam proof or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No.
are you
Yeah.
okay with that? Shall I move
Yep.
on?
Yeah. Please do.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've switched the order.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Right. There's the page. That's what do you think the behaviors are? Like,
Any reflections or
uh,
thoughts?
um, well, so this page is the big, is where the penny drops for me. It's the kind of light bulb moment of where, all this prep work goes. And then this is where we're really looking at actual behaviors. And that's where I can start. I don't know. For me, this is where the connections are starting to all start going off, is
Yeah,
where I
yeah.
start naming behaviors, and kind of that's what lets me really draw the line up to what I think might be going on now that I might not have noticed before. Is like that's
Yeah. So
that
these
all right here.
so these are the discomforts.
Mm-hmm.
So what sort of behaviors, what would be going on? What sort of behaviors would a baby or toddler, what would they be developing to keep the discomfort to a minimum?
Yeah.
So would they
Yeah.
start to become really pleasing? Or would they
Right.
start to become sort of melting away?
Mm-hmm.
Or would they hold their thoughts inside? Because if you open the outside speaker up, you don't know
Mm-hmm.
what's coming back. So
Right.
so become
Right.
very cautious. And these are not things that a toddler or a baby moving into just 12 months starting to pick up words or whatever. This is all starting to happen, for months before this,
Yeah.
almost from the get-go. Well, if you go to avoidance theory, you'll see from the get-go there's an optimization happening
Mm-hmm.
around discomfort. And
Yeah.
and the baby isn't or the toddler isn't thinking, well, if I experiment with that, I'll just see what I get, so I'll give 3 days with this style, and then I'll give 3 days, and then I'll
Uh-huh.
weigh them up. No, the what I call the trauma-based learning system and the trial success and reward system. If
Uh-huh.
you go and do the avoidance theory module, um, they're experimenting all the time, and they're working
Right.
off each other to prevent a re-experiencing of real discomfort. Because
Mm-hmm.
remember, for a baby or toddler, they have the capacity to experience emotions at a phenomenally intense level because they've got very
Yes.
few resources to constrain the intensity.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's immense malleability of that system. It's a very malleable system.
Yeah. Right.
We're not hidebound. In fact, they're probably incredibly efficient because there isn't much ego going on, and basically
Right.
the system is just trying to optimize and develop the best set of behaviors to get the food they need, to get the security they need.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be being very pliable. It might be being not pliable to get mainline attention from the parent,
Right.
which
Right.
is better than the alternative, which is being shunned or distanced or isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean they're actually being that. It could just be that's what they sense. So,
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So there's a perception element to this as well.
so you're asking yourself, well, what sort of behaviors, what would be and this is where the resonance starts to come in. God,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, people said I was quite quiet, or this is what I used to do. So you're
Yeah.
starting to write these experimentally. You're trying them on.
Yeah.
And this is where does this connect? And this is where we find, yeah, that sort of connects with me. I
Uh-huh.
get that. I get that.
Yeah, right, right, right. And it's easy for me. It's anyway, like my mind almost reflexively starts to imagine and draw connections between these really, really old kind of behaviors and stuff I might be doing today that's an expression of those core learnings.
Yeah, so you're moving rapidly with this now, which is
Mm-hmm.
what you often see. You people.
Uh-huh.
So you might then say, well, which of these behaviors then lasted into your childhood and adolescence, or were there
Right.
new ones added?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
or did some get sort of revised? Because when we trigger and we get activated, we can modify these things.
Mm-hmm.
When we're not activated, they're very resilient and very resistant
Yeah.
to change. So we're starting to say, well, yeah, this is what this is. So these came through into my childhood, and then yeah, this one I can see really came into my life today.
Yeah.
And then the modified version, I think I've continued to modify that, and that's in there, and it's like that today.
I was about to say, seeing the modifications across time seems like a really interesting opportunity for learning about yourself.
Yeah.
And seeing times in the past where you may have already inadvertently changed a legacy behavior, like for
And
the better. Like you found something that stopped in the middle column that you didn't carry into adulthood, and that gives you a
and
chance.
what sorry, I wasn't listening there. I was trying to
Oh yeah,
sort. Could you say that again, please?
Yeah, so there it seems like there's a cool opportunity on this page as you go through. If you can see some of these legacy behaviors stopped, like if something made it from left column to middle column, but not to the adulthood, you can look and see, hey, I did stop doing that. How did that work? How did
Oh, how
you know?
wonderful.
Maybe I already did fix a legacy behavior, and what can I
Yeah,
what
and
can I
that then
reflect on about
that's a
that?
lovely thought. I've never thought of it like that. Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of like then challenging your perception that stuff you've got in your life today is just intrinsic and just stuck. And
Yeah.
and this is what really this is all about, the legacy behavior. It's to see that a lot of stuff that you think is intrinsic actually just got trained in. And if it got
Right.
trained in, it can get trained out.
Right. There's
So it's
hope.
not pinned in, it's not nailed in, it's not tied, it's not welded to you.
It's not what I am.
It's not what I am, and then you just I'm going to get through life because this is what I am. I know it's causing problems for other people and me, but this is what I am. And it's sort of going, well, hold on, that that was trained into me because it helped me live a more comfortable life back here. So
Mm-hmm.
so I'm actually deploying in my life behaviors that were useful once. I mean, they were there to help me, and then they
Yeah.
sort of fell out of fashion. But but they stayed with me because they were like, by that time they were sort of trained in and pretty enduring. And I've spent most of the rest of my life trying to solve the issues in my life with the stuff that got trained in and were meant to solve problems at a different part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Great, great phase. Yep,
Oh, sorry, I'm moving on. Are you okay?
yep. I'm good. I'm good to go. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, there's a cool opportunity for adult reflection on there. Yeah. And again, this is where like you start to, because a lot of you start to look at the other side of the coin about a lot of these behaviors, because a lot of these things, when we're going through the examples, a lot of those things seem great on paper, like, I'm always there for everybody, or I'm really clever and everybody knows it, and that works for me and that works for everybody around me, all that stuff. um you can start to, this is a really good opportunity to think about the other side of that coin,
Yeah.
of like, how does that stuff not work for you.
Yeah.
And
And why it was there in the first place.
mm-hmm.
And it's just hanging around your neck,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it it's just still with you because it's just always been with you, and it's been
Mhm.
hard to differentiate it and understand it as a trained in trait.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. And it's scary to think of letting go of at least some of the stuff that I recognize in myself. It's There's an immediate fear that comes up when I imagine letting some of these modules go. And that's a sign of how deeply tied to discomfort they are.
Yes.
Just emotionally, how connected they feel to
Yeah.
saving me from discomfort is like, I imagine letting go, and then I go, oh no, inside, like,
Yeah. And yeah, and that's a really great point. Just realizing them doesn't mean they go. But
mm-hmm,
but unless you can differentiate them, unless you can see them, they're never going to go. You're never going to have a choice because they're always just going to be invisible and intrinsic
mm-hmm, right, right,
rather
and
than differentiated with their own history,
mm-hmm,
which is also
right,
part of externalization.
uh-huh,
So it's so like, so yeah. So are you okay? You get that? Shall I move
yep,
on?
yep, good to go.
So this
Yeah,
bit is all about refinement. So you're starting to
uh-huh,
think about which ones you're actually going to go for,
yep,
to start off with.
yeah. Discomfort reduction, reconditioning resources. What would you and others notice? Okay, so this is starting to prepare you maybe emotionally and mentally for some of the consequences you might experience in trying to change like a behavior like this.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, as you were picking up already earlier on, you're also even thinking about some of them was generating a bit of discomfort. So
Yeah.
this is starting to say, well, how can you head off that discomfort? How can you recondition it?
Mm-hmm.
Not avoid it. Some avoidance is okay if you. There's a
Uh-huh.
module about resources and reconditioning. It's largely
Right.
focused on the rainbow map, but I'll probably develop that. So if people are tuning into this, if they subscribe, this is my sales. If they subscribe on YouTube or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or connect with me, they'll get updated when other stuff is developed. But if they go to that resources and reconditioning module, that will make sense. And for psychotherapists and counselors tuning into this is starting to feed into the modality. An
Yeah.
EMDR person or a phobia related CBT person or a CBT person or whatever, Jungian, they're going to have
Right.
their own resource development techniques.
Okay. Okay.
So they may scrub this, or they may, because they'll know loads of stuff that, as everyone does. They'll have wonderful techniques I've got no idea about
Right.
that would plug really
Okay.
nicely in here and
Yeah.
really help the client deal with that discomfort as they start
Yeah.
the journey, to use that much used phrase of starting to
Mm-hmm.
recondition that legacy behavior. And when I say
Right.
maybe trying to move it away or just modifying it. So
Mm-hmm.
because it might be quite useful in certain
Okay.
parts of your life still, but harmful
Yeah.
in others. So how do you recondition it?
Interesting. So this is the point where I'd start thinking about, like, say, if I'm doing my own internal work, this is where I'd start looking at what I've taken, like the learning that I've taken from going through this, and this is where I start kind of plugging it into like the tools that I've already kind of developed for
Yeah,
myself. Right.
absolutely. That's brilliant. If you can, that's
Right.
wonderful. Um,
Yeah.
so which is why I was sort of saying at the beginning of this, and that's why I've written in, this isn't sort of a beginner's tool, really.
Right.
You need to have done a bit of work like you've done yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You would have bought self-help books probably.
Yeah.
Maybe
Absolutely.
like the Chimp Paradox, or one of those sorts of books, and that would already be
Mhm.
giving you a sense of the discrete nature of your human system.
Yeah. Right. 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 Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Or
that makes sense.
you would have done, you'd done a reasonable amount of work already with your psychotherapist or counselor,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're a psychotherapist or counselor, there's something you might be thinking, well, yeah, maybe now's the time to give this one a go. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
so,
Okay.
and then finally, or
Mm-hmm.
not finally, we're coming down to this. Are you
Yeah.
okay? I moved on. Were you all right?
I'm good to go. Yep. 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 We're on a good pace. Courage and hard work indeed. Yeah, it is. It is at least a huge challenge that I experience is kind of breaking out of and recognizing my own style of thinking is is really difficult.
Well, the reflective mind, reactive brain body module might be something you might be interested in on the,
Yeah.
and obviously the rainbow map is all about that. But
Mm.
so people ask me, sometimes, what do you think of your clients? Psychotherapists, and ever since the first day I ever met the first client I ever worked with, it's been the same. Always just respect and admiration. It takes courage to take on stuff like this, to go to therapy, to go to counseling. It takes courage. Uh, And any if you embark on any change, through the legacy behaviors, it takes courage. But the other big thing is it takes hard work.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
remember working a number of years ago with a person who was a high level martial arts expert who was having some issues in a part of their life. And I was doing, rainbow mappy type stuff, legacy behavior type stuff. And by about the 9th or 10th session, or 8th or 9th, at that time, they were coming in reporting incredible improvements in their life. And
Yeah.
I was saying, because sometimes you have to think, is your client just pleasing you? You're doing this stuff. Are they trying, is it this very delicate power dynamic? Is this person? And I thought I knew the person well enough to just air that, is this, I was sort of saying, is this sort of just checking out whether it was pleasing or whether this is really happening in their lives? And the person said, well, I'm a martial, I'm a 50th Dan or whatever it is. He could balance on his fingernail off a girder at 2,000 feet, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Like and he said, I've only got there through hard work. I know if I'm going to get to the next level, I just have to work at it. I have to apply myself. So yeah. And if the work can be sort of guided and there's some focus rather than just being amorphous, like where do I go next? I sort of hope the legacy behavior, the rainbow map are all quite empty, but they give a sort of flow like a wave,
Right.
But you can surf it how you want. I mean, building on the analogy. You didn't know that I was a child prodigy at surfing, did you?
Well, now we have the proof.
That was me winning the Rio 1917 surfing championships.
Beautiful. It's colorized perfectly.
Colorized.
Yeah.
Said that. Okay. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, ready to go on.
Okay.
I'm just reading it twice. That's important stuff. Yeah, I think that's a really important slide because the progress is never a straight line. And, inevitably we falter, and how we handle that is so important. That I'm just really glad to see that slide there, because anybody, I guess, like anybody going into psychotherapy is going to be doing that to address some sort of problem or another. It's like
and it's like learning anything, learning to drive a car, tennis lessons. We're all going to get it wrong, and we're going to get better for a while and then fall back. And it's just recognizing that that's likely to happen and forgiving ourselves. I know in couple work, it can get better, and then they'll just, for whatever reason, just have the same old conflict, like the psychotherapy never happened, and they just trigger and they just do it, and it can be quite dispiriting, But our trained in behaviors, our legacy behaviors, they're very resistant. Trauma, it is very resistant. Anything else you want to comment on here?
No, just just glad it's there, ready to keep going. Okay. Yeah. So this is how this will relate to other modules.
Yeah. This is water, by the way, not vodka or anything like that.
Sure.
Yeah. So those are other modules. There are other modules on the website as well, at the companion YouTube channel.
Okay. Yep. Additional tool for toolbox. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, good with that.
Okay, well, that's
Overall.
it. You just gone through the legacy behavior experience module, and
Excellent.
I really thank you. You asked some wonderful questions and reflected, so well. Um, so
Well,
as we
so
know,
much
your
for
dad was a pretty thick bloke. So
yeah, yeah. Well,
so obviously it's jumped to generations. So, but thank you. There I go again. Getting myself into trouble. I do apologize for that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
apologize, Ken. So I'm sure he'd laugh at that and give as good
Oh,
as
he
it
would.
got and better. So hey, Andres, thank you so much. I know you're
Yeah.
busy, and your working day is just about to start, isn't it? So
Yeah, just about to fire it up. So I've had some
yeah,
practice thinking a little bit
yeah,
today already now,
yeah,
so should be able to hit the ground running.
yeah,
But
and
it's been wonderful being taken through the module like this. It's a really cool way to look at and think about stuff I do
well,
and who I
great.
think I am.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
thanks for that. And
yeah.
so we better say our goodbyes. And thank
Oh,
you again, Andres. Great for you to
well,
spend time. It's always great spending time with you. So,
likewise. Yeah, you too.
so yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Bye then. Cheers.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, Andreas. I really appreciated your questions and reflections and for taking time out from your busy schedule to participate today. If this and other modules on this website have been of interest and useful for you, perhaps I could ask that you let friends and colleagues who might also benefit from this free resource know about it. So maybe you could also put a link out on any social media you might use. That would be very helpful. For those of you watching this, for your ongoing training, please remember you can go back to the launch page for this module and request a training certificate free of charge. That launch page also holds PDF downloads of this PowerPoint presentation. You can also see a list of related modules on the website should you wish to know more about the Rainbow Map, other tools and the concepts on which they're based. If you and 10 or more of your friends or colleagues want to dig deeper into any aspect of this or other modules on the website, then you can book a free Zoom-based question and answer reflection session to suit your time zone. Thanks for spending your time with Andreas and me today.